What's up, my people? Welcome again to According to the Lie, and it's time again for some real talk with Mr. O. I'm finishing up of this video essay that I started called The Attack on the Black Male. I want to go ahead and wrap this up and get into the finale of it all. I hope you can bear with me. I hope it's not too long, but it might be. I have some things in it that I got to put in it and get this finale just right, that it sounds off about what this whole ordeal is about, and the attack on the black male, not just here in Georgia, but across the United States and the rest of the Western world. But more focused here about Georgia. Again, it's the attack on the black man, Georgia mass incarceration agenda, aka the anti-gang initiative. Well, anti-gang law. So let's get into it. Without further ado, I want to quote for you the fair use. I misspoke last time saying that I'm the only one still using it. I'm one of the few that uses it to cite for you and quote for you the Copyright Act of 1976 that allows for fair use of copyrighted material, both broadcast and print. Based on my research, I got some criticism. I got some commentary dealing with the media. And again, it's really the focus of the media, but it's also a focus on what's happening to us through the media, through white media. It is the battleground of the Western world for those who want to control, in particular, continue to place us at the bottom caste or the bottom, outlaw our progress. The bottom class, whatever. But be that as it may, I want to quote here inside it. You can read it, read it for yourself. I want to make sure I quote it for my protection. Now let's move on into this other thing that I've designed and I want to share. The graphics I like to use as I discuss the media. As I say, we are way past mind control. We're under thought control. For our thoughts are not even our own. I've said in earlier videos, the white media is the visual scriptures of our era, except that we see it on the news, on CNN, Fox, CBS, ABC, Instagram, or whatever your favorite social media. Except that you see it there, you don't believe that it's real, and so we're way past mind control. We're under thought control. I cited for you how the British used mass media for psychological warfare. It's a very thorough, well-documented research paper that has the bibliography to prove the point of the thought control that we're now under. I said that's after reading that article and following through with those footnotes that it was pointing out. Yeah, I had to do this according to the lie, this platform that I've started. Now let's get into the topic. Before we get into the topic, I always like to say to you, welcome to class. I'm that educator of some 30 years. Teaching is my passion. And so I'm going to get into the topic now. I like to use that instructor's format, the learning objective. And so here it is. I'm going to use it for us. Here's the element that we're discussing, the element 10. Now, initially, you would have noticed that at the beginning of it, you would have saw that element 9 was 10 and 10 was 9. I switched that around because I thought that was the better flow and the logical flow of the article, and how it should really finalize, be the finale. Put some pointers in here that I've been working on. I've been stating a lot, and kind of not all the pointers that I've been stating, but a few of those pointers I want to just finalize them and put them in what I mean when I say there's a death wish, and they've been trying to label the black youth as a terrorist since the 1990s. I'm going to put that in front of you. So where is that coming from? I've said that quite often. And so, again, it's going to be a rather intense, rather involved video essay, but I hope you can bear with me and follow through and enjoy it to the end. Again, element 10, that's the politics that make up the anti-gang law. Where are the black elected officials or non-governing Negroes, non-threatening Negroes? What are their positions? What are their positions on this? And let me see. So where are the black elected officials? What are their positions? Just trying to look through that, make sure that's grammatically correct. If not, I'll fix it later, but that's what the point is. Okay, let's get on into it. Get out of that. I'll start this essay with this video. Bear with me. I think you're going to enjoy it. I think you need to see it. Alton Maddox stated once in one of his lectures, if black people had wings, we would be flying backwards. I just want you to see what he meant when he was saying something like that. Here's what he was mean, family. If you notice carefully, we'll play it one more time. I'll play it again quite often through this. The hummingbird is one of the few birds that fly backwards. There's another one, I think it's the honeybird. But the hummingbird is a noted bird that flies backwards. If you notice that bird, it would go into his home, come out, look around, back up, go back into his nest, and come back out. I thought that was great, shall we say, symbolism for the notion of black people. And particularly not just black folks, but black leaders. It's not the black people, but it's the black leaders. I think Automatic would agree when he said if we had wings, we would be flying backwards. And why was he saying that? Well, what comes to mind often is what all our problems. It seems like we're besieged with a whole lot of problems. We can't get anything right. It seems like we're disproportionate. That word I want to deal with in a future coming topic. Disproportionately, the worst in all categories. We are at risk, at the highest at-risk conditions in all categories, be it health, schooling, housing, a whole host of things. We seem to be at the bottom of the totem pole, about to catch every disease, incarcerated the most. We seem to be having problems. So I thought I'd just kind of throw out a litany of those things. Like here, you see, we have one of our problems we always bereft with is this poor performing students or underfunded facilities. And if it isn't that, let me get my thoughts rolling here. We have the problem with, like I said, disproportionate high risk of poor health, underfunded facilities. You can see as it was going down and talking about us in COVID-19, it seems like we are the ones more at risk of catching this disease and more at risk of not taking the vaccination and the vaccine, which I'm not interested in taking. If you look back at the Tuskegee program and the black person that was involved in that, hey, I have another comment about that vaccine. Another video will come up. But anyway, we hear that talk. We're at risk of getting the disease the most and the most likely not to get the vaccination. And it seems like we're always getting we're at the low end of the totem pole. Another one of our problems it seems like we always have is our living condition, our actual living environment, what we see and where we are, where we shop, how it looks. Let me bring up a little for other things about that, other than just let's get that out, bring that out. It seems like our area seems to be the most slummy, seems to be most trashy. It's unsafe. Often in our section of town, we're redline family. It seems like we don't have sidewalks. It seems like the trash can't get picked up. We're not the only one throwing trash out the windows, and I would hope that people are not throwing trash out of a window or just walking and dropping trash. But there are some people that do that in all races. But it seems like our area seems to be the most slummy, most trashy. Trust me, you'll see this in Buckhead and the other well-to-do communities just looking like this. But it seems like the government officials always seem to have the ability to maintain the area sanitation and keep the streets clean and pick up Because white people are throwing things out of their windows too. White people are just walking down the street dropping things on the ground too. They're not just only black folks or other ethnic groups that do this, but it's, it has to do with that wealth. This is that control of the wealth and how the wealth is allocated, meaning the amenities of life, how well off it seems our environment and our atmosphere looks. Again, wealth makes it look good. That's all. That's my point in putting that out. So not only our living condition seems to be harsh and slummy, not just that. Let me bring up another thing. Take out that we want to look at this. This is sad. Amenities. It seems like our side of town, our sidewalks are not kept up. They're broken. If there is a sidewalk, like I just showed you on the previous slide. You go in our public libraries, the shelves are empty. Most thing they have is access to the internet and very limited. Our public park and recreation is bare, lack of real green space. Yeah, lack real green space, family. What's going on with that as opposed to the other community? We find ourselves with things, and I was taking my granddaughter out, and we was at the public park, and it's a great little one near me, 5 minutes away, of some greenery. But when we got into the play area, it was that uncomfortable, hot turf that was under it, green turf that made the thing. It's springtime right now, and the weather is getting better. It was something like 70 degrees, but that turf made it feel like more like 90. My grandbaby couldn't even enjoy it, but she played her heart out. Okay, but it seemed like we're underfunded in public facilities and amenities. Let's say that. And is that the problem or the fault of black people? Yes, in part, but it's also the problem and fault of, shall we say, black leaders, elected officials, those people who are supposed to be working on our behalf, representing us, and making sure we get our fair allocation and proportions of the funds and dollars to live better, to live, have greater accommodation, that our atmosphere and our environment is positive and wonderful and beautiful and clean and just great to be out so we can relax. Okay, so black folks have some responsibility, but I really also want to put some responsibility on those leaders. Where I'm at, both here in Metro Atlanta and DeKalb County, ran by black folks. The city of Atlanta ran by black folks. But something is spooky about how it is ran for us and how it's represented for us as compared to how it's ran and represented for the white community. I'm just going to be real about that. Again, one thing I want to point out briefly here, and this goes into what I'm really talking about, Mayor Bottom, who got into office, so one of the few early initiatives she had, she wanted to do something about the big Gulf, this big eyesore in the middle of downtown Atlanta where the train tracks run. And so she was going to get funds from the city and funds from public schools to fund this development of this area and turn it into a great commercial residential area. Somehow they know how to find black elected officials. They know how to find funds, private and public, funds to develop an oasis for white people. But for us, the next time we turn around, we see her. She going over and standing in front of the Atlanta Detention Center, talking about she's gonna close that. Huh. For us, it's charity. Again, this is not me just talking about it by myself. All conscious people have known that we get charity. Go back to the 60s and 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. Black conscious people have told you they come with us with charity. Not only white elected official, but black elected official. They come at us with a charitable mindset. No concrete, no absolute, no tangible that benefits us just for us. It's some benign neglect that really doesn't benefit anybody. Shutting down the Atlanta Detention Center for Fulton County to say they'll buy it. So what changed? Where's some dollars going for us? That's another point. I'll get into that when I deal with the Atlanta, the Black Mecca. There's that myth. Some people have been writing about it, but I want to get into some deep, and I'm gonna touch on it here in this conversation. But okay, so we got underfunding in public facilities. So why is that a problem with just black folks? It's just the black folks. It's the black leaders, I say. It's black leaders. And the problem really gets into, I like to quote this person the most, Dr. Amos Wilson. Here's our problem. We are besieged and we're under that thought and mind control because we're under, or shall I say, we've been placed, we've been possessed, as Dr. Amos Wilson has said, by a possessive spirit of false consciousness. And that false consciousness has us going along to get along. It has us accepting the bottom caste. And don't get it wrong, I think that, don't get me wrong, I think the ordinary black man and black woman on the streets, they're very aware that this thing is rigged and we're not in the club, that things are going against us, that systematic racism just is in play, it's on autopilot, like I like to say. But it's the elected officials, black elected officials, who seem to be the most spooked, the most controlled, the most possessed with a false consciousness. And I'm going to diagnose some of their conditions later, but they're the one that has allowed for our condition to be as it is, or the stalemate in our conditions, with very little progress, if any. We was bamboozled by, the election of the first black president who did nothing for black folks. And anytime he was asked to do anything for black folks, he said he couldn't do anything for black folks. He was not just going to single out just black folks. He's going to do things for all Americans because he's the president of all Americans. That nonsense. But as many has pointed out, he had no problem doing special initiatives, executive orders for Latinos, for gays. This no good vice president, she said it too. So I'm not just going to do anything just for black folks. But she has no problem doing having initiatives specific to immigration, specifically immigration of Indians coming from her ancestral home. But anyway, when it comes to us, there's that benign neglect. That's another discussion. We'll get into that sometime in the future. And that is the talk of there will be change, but change that where everything remains the same. And we are bamboozled by this because of the false consciousness that the dominant controlling powers, the white powers, have over us through elected officials. I know that was a lot to say, a lot to get around to, but it's real. And we've been bamboozled ever since that group really got into power. They really was selected to be in power, to be the buffer, and to maintain us in that status quo of the bottom caste. And we've been fooled by this. And let me get into some of that before I start just going off into the deep rails about it. But we've been fooled by this. And so they've helped also. They've been conduits in creating that mass incarceration. They went along with Joe Biden. Okay? And they're going along now. I got some applause for Georgia legislative, the Georgia Black Caucus here. When you look at their voting record, the majority of them voted against the governor's anti-gang initiative. I'll show you the documentation about that later. But where were their voices? What were they saying? How were they out there trying to galvanize the people to wake up and say, hey, this is bad for us. Let's do something. Let's stop it. Let's create some coalitions to stop this nonsense and reverse this law. They're silent. And I'm going to say that again, that coming up when I deal with the backwardness of black elected officials. But let's get back to I like to get into a little history here. They've been a part of the problem that has led to, shall we say, the nature of the government. When white people get on their criminal crusade for us, it becomes what? Death and destruction, incarceration, mass incarceration. Lock the son of a bitches up, and they serve a function. Their purpose is to be that buffer, to confuse us as well, to confuse the issue, to make it sound like they're doing something about an issue, but when they're not. They're actually not. Actually, they are in cahoots with the powers that be for their own personal gain. Enough said with that. Let me get on into that. Those are our problems compared to let's look at shall we say, the other group, how they live. When we look at the other people and how they live versus, compared to our group, suburbia. What did I say a moment ago? Me and my granddaughter was out at the park the other day, and what did we see? I know you can barely see it right there, but there it is. You see this wonderful green space, amenities that's unbelievable. Even shopping that's always state of the art. Always looking like it's going to the 21st, 22nd, 23rd century. The Beltway, I mentioned that earlier. Here in Georgia, they got this Beltway going around, creating this awesome green space, awesome walking environment for the community. But where did it start? It started in Buckhead. It started on the white side of town. It started, redeveloping for the white community. And what do we have? Oasis being developed for white folks. White dollar, let's say not white dollars, let's say capital, public dollars and private dollars going into sections that revitalize area where they move into. They're migrating back into the city. They still have their suburbs. They still have their suburban oasis, but they're getting little enclaves inside the metropolitan area. Not just here in Atlanta. This is going on in all major cities, family. When white folks decided to come back in, the dollars come back in, and development starts happening for them. White folks leave and go back out in the country, the dollars follow them, development follow them. But for us, we don't get this modern 22nd, 23rd century shopping center. Unbelievable up and down Roswell Road and up and down Peach Street. The development that happens from Sandy Springs that happening for their communities. When we get a shopping mall, we don't get a shopping mall. We get a shopping center, a box with a parking lot. We get that squared up, no resting area in front of the store. You go into their area, a Kroger, a grocery store, a Publix. There's coffee shop areas for them to sit out in front of the grocery store and relax and just chill there, hang out at a grocery store. Can you believe it? Like it's a coffee shop or Starbucks. That's what goes on for that community, and there's a reasoning behind that, family. The reasoning behind that is they're together, they are unified. Even though they're the Jeffro Bodines, they'll believe anything that this government says and this government do, and the powers that be in this country say and do. They march lockstep together. Let me put that on. I want to share that with you. They're together. They walk lockstep together. That's right. Yeah, the shopping mall. But they are also a part of this family when they get lockstep together. They also get lockstep together in that crusade against us, that criminal crusade. We have to be mindful and heed whenever white people start talking about crime is on the rise. Crime is not on the rise. It is delusion that crime is on the rise. Yeah, the crime is still at a steady base. But if crime is on the rise, based on the FBI CRU report, they're engaged in just as much or more crime than we are. But yet, when they present to us this illusion that it's just black folks that's doing most of the crime, then you feel like there's a dangerous, violent situation that has to be done, and the solution has to be punitive punishment, final. Lock them up, and lock them up seriously. I discussed that with you last time, as opposed to with them. When their malfeasance is on the rise, they seem to find a different approach, and that approach is always treatment, medication, counseling, not just locking them up. But they're together, family. They are together. And in what way? I said it. They are like the Jeffro Bodines, but they are like this. And I want you to take a moment, enjoy this video. It's going to take a moment, but I have to show it to you. It's real. It's what they're about. That's it, family. Watch class for now. They're unisons. Watch what you see, family. What you see, family? Togetherness, unity, a group. I wanted that to really permeate through your mind, as opposed to us, family. We get the hummingbird. We get a hummingbird activity, and this group of people are the geese, the Canadian geese. Let's clean off my whiteboard. Yes, they are the Jeff Robodines, I say. Put that up there. Jeff Robodines. Come on out that part over here. Get out the geese. Bring the geese out and bring in the Jeff Robodines of Western society. But they are the Canadian geese. They are in unison. They act together. They execute together. They stay on their plan. As Automatics also stated, if their granddaddy had a belief system and they told them their children and their grandchildren and their great-grandchildren, you better believe this group of people will adhere and follow through their belief system and their ideas and their philosophy. While we are the hummingbirds. We're all over the place. And we have a problem with being all over the place, not just ourselves, but most importantly, those who are in charge. And what is the problem with these people that are in charge? They have a psychosis. They have a psychosis that we're going to have to deal with seriously, as opposed to these Jeffro Bodines, simple-minded. You know, I know there's some good white people out there, but I like to say it like Muhammad Ali said. I got 100, 1,000 good white people who are trying to fight and prevent the 10,000 from lynching me, but they can't stop. So it seems like there's not enough of the good ones to stop what the evil ones do. That's paraphrasing him basically. But they're in unison. And look at, not only they build their oases that basically go to their home. Look at this thing, family. Get back on my thing, the Jeffro Bodine. Look at their lives. Let me see, make sure I got that right there. Take him out. Get my thing right. Jeffro Bodine, we want this. We want that out. This. There we go. Look how unison they are here in Georgia. After they build their enclaves in the city, let's get the historical perspective right. They left the cities and went to the suburbs back in the late 60s after the immigration thing started going down. But now they want to come back into the city because the oasis is back in the city, the commerce is back in the city, the financial districts are back in the city. So look at billions of dollars of express lanes to escape back to their suburban oasis. And yet we can't even get a paved even sidewalk on our side of town, family. That's the problem. That's the problem that we're dealing with. And who's responsible for it? Is it the ordinary black person responsible for that? No. The ordinary black person is not responsible for that, family. It's our black elected officials, family. It is these people. I know I'll be up in just a few moments. You'll see me. And here's the nature of the backwards leaders that we have. When Carter G. Wilson wrote this book, The Miseducation of the Negro, most people have the misconception that he's talking about everyday, ordinary black people. He's not. He's not talking about everyday, ordinary black people, family. He is not. He's talking about the educated black person. Read that book carefully. He's talking about during the early 1900s, that educated black person who has fallen in love with white people more than the white person loves himself. That's their problem. Anything that comes out of he out of black, he has a hate for, a disdain. Talking about the educated Negro. He's been miseducated. He thinks white is better, white is superior. There can't be anything bad about white folks. And he's talking about that group of people. He is that voice, many have said, that he knew the scam that came out of our trusted Du Bois, W.E.D. Du Bois, talented 10, that what everyone is talking about, and you want to see some facts about that. He saw the game going down, that the talented 10 wasn't concerned about the 11 on down. The talented 10 was their only concern for themselves. That was the game behind it. And the fact about, if you want to get some documentation on it, check out this book called The Negro Project. And it was this crazy woman named Margaret Sand. I don't even like saying their names right. I don't care. She was the eugenics who had a plan, who wanted to get birth control and Planned Parenthood. The people who looked at her ideas for Planned Parenthood and started euthanasia and abortions. She called people like W.E.D. Du Bois the useless idiots, because he didn't realize that he was being fooled to go along with a plan that was about his people's extermination. But I like to point out some quotes of some great lecturers of the 90s. Alton Maddox said it best. Du Bois and Thurgood Marshall, they had a color complex. You know, they had a problem with their fathers who didn't accept them to be a part of their family. So in their disdain and hate of their fathers, their disdain and hate of not being accepted on the other side of the color line among black folks, they really disdained and hated black folks the most. But anyway, that's another discussion. But here, that's that false consciousness that we are basically living on, the family. Let me get that out of here and come on in to bring it back into me. That's the nature of it. And what am I talking about? Why am I saying all of this? I'm saying all of this to look at who are our elected officials who fail to represent us. Well, in the state of Georgia, let me clean off my whiteboard, bring me in, and deal with the black leaders. Bring me in right here quickly, family. See it? Clean off the whiteboard. I've been gone a long time right there. Who are the problem? Our elected black leaders. They're the one with the nature of being backwards, as Dr. Amos Wilson points out in his book, False Consciousness. We have to be backwards in order for the dominant powers to maintain domination over us, to accept this low caste status, while they gain from it. You know, the powerful or the dominant class, the controlling class, and also particularly whites in society, will always give themselves a buffer class to protect themselves from the group that's being dominated. They'll pull from that group, us, and put them in the middle, as upward mobile, upward and coming, believing in the system, and saying the system is working, it's going to benefit us all, and that is to control us, to believe in the system while they continue to benefit from the system. Who are benefiting the most from voting? Elected officials. Seem like they get out there on their campaign tantrums and tell us every voting cycle, every election cycle, they're going to do this about education, do that about health, do this about mass incarceration, do this about police brutality and the killing of unarmed people by policemen, armed or not, just these justifiable homicides that are going on by race soldiers who are police officers. And the FBI said police has been infiltrated by racist, extremists, militia groups, and white extremists. But yet, those groups seem to stay there. So, who are our problem people? Let's look here. Let's bring it home to our group of people who just can't seem to get the job done for us. Here they are. The Georgia Black Caucus. What is their problem, family? Let's look at their problem. Their problem is this. Let me bring it up where I can see it. Get it out of this mode. Look at that. Listen to their philosophy of their platform. You know, we continue to reform criminal justice. No specificity there. But the main thing I wanted you to see that they seem to have, let me go back to the top of it. I want to read it to you that you see it for yourself. Let's bring that out. Bring me back in. Put it back up there. Let's go with it. The organizational purpose. I want to read that to you again. If you didn't get a chance to read it for yourself. It's an organization that's been in business for 45 years. The Georgia Legislative Black Caucus has sought to protect the general welfare of black people and other people of color and disadvantaged citizens of Georgia. All lives matter. We can't leave nobody out. We can't seem to be focused just on us. Why? Why? We got to have coalitions to make sure our legislative agendas get through. Well, what legislative agendas are you working on to get through that will still benefit us? But it's the All Lives Matter group, that talented 10, that seems to forget the 11 on down. That's our problem with backwards black leaders. Compare that to, let's see, look at this group right here in Georgia. Clean off the whiteboard. This group right here, this is the Hispanic Alliance. And what you'll see there, family, they ain't got no problem focus on themselves. Look at our program. They don't have a mission statement or a statement of purpose like the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus did, but here in Georgia, at least you see that they are mainly concerned with who? Hispanics, Latinos. Look at it. Legal immigration services. They're focusing on Hispanics, Latinos. No matter where they come from, that's the group that they are going to focus on. They can be from Mexico, Guatemala, wherever of South America, Central America. They're looking after that group as a collective group. They have no problem saying we're focusing on ourselves. Now, that's just a nonprofit organization. I want to share with you being that a group that is a legislative group, to clean this off, and bring up a legislative group that are made up of Latinos in California. That's been well documented how they feel about things, family. Look at this group, the California Latino Legislative Caucus. Now listen to their language of their mission statement. They ain't got no problem saying it. Clearly, the mission of the California Legislative Latino Caucus is to identify, promote, and advocate on the behalf of professional, educational, social, political, and cultural interests of the Latino community. Forgive me for that stumbling around. I just want to put it on the record. This group has no problem talking about, hey, we're about us, for us, and nobody else but us. Yeah, we might make an ally here and there, but we're focused on us. What is our problem, family? Our problem is, let me clean up my whiteboard and bring this into you. Our problem is basically this. Let me get that up where you can see it. Our backward leaders have this problem. They are the clear people. Yeah, they are the clear people. This is their problem. The clear people, colorless, raceless black people, mostly politicians, celebrities, entertainers, athletes, notables, celebrity, business entrepreneurs. They have this problem right here. What is their problem? 1, they identify with their oppressor. 2, they deny their history. 3, they become self-oppressors. 4, fails to recognize their enemies. 5, are cowards to face destroying wannabe white supremacists and his imps. 6, will claim he or she is not like the rest of their people. Now, I'm not black. Don't include me as part of black. That's our problem. We don't want to be black. Anything but black, please. Don't call me black. I'm Italian. I'm Indian. I'm whatever. I'm French. Okay. Number 7, don't see their race and teach their children and others not to see race. 8, advocate all lives matter at the expense of their own interests. 9, include everybody in any endeavors. Specify nobody can be left out. We're the first to say we can't leave nobody out. We got to protect everybody. And 10, they are apologetic for the benign neglect and failures of this government. That's our problem, family. That's what's going down on us. Literally, that's the problem, family. Let me get that out of this mode. Take that out. I want to get back to why do I always talk about that death wish and the problem that they've always wanted to label us as terrorists since the 1990s. Let's look at it. That's the death wish. And they've been wanting to label us a terrorist since the 1990s. Well, it goes to this person right here. It's a death wish. And they've been wanting to label us the terrorist since the 1990s. Let me get that up for you. There we go. No, that's not the one. Oh, here it is. Let me get him in here. I want you to see this, family. Here's the problem. Here's our problem. These clear people are like this gentleman. The Secretary of Health and Human Service, Louis Sullivan. He is the author of the ridiculous idea of the violence initiative that identify gene markers for inner city youth. That's the death wish. They've been trying to identify the young black male as a terrorist and a violent person since the 1990s. Look at the article. Just so you know, I'm not making this thing up. Check out the article on him here. The violence initiatives, how it was plagued with this problem. You bring that out. Come on back over here. Play it for me. There we go. I see my problem. We're in here. And it don't want to let it go. Take out there. There we go. There we go. Straighten that out for you, family. The dissenting view of research on violence. This is back in the 90s when they were talking about the violence initiative, family. Look at it. They had problem with this thing. Why? Because it was going to identify, they were using this research as a way to identify violent genetic markers in black youth in the inner cities. And what they were going to use that for? Try to identify as early as 5 years old which black kid would be dangerous based on a gene in his body. Yes. And the danger of the program was that on the flip side, once they established that a young black male was in detention, he could have found himself still locked up, and they refused to allow the young person out of the juvenile detention until that gene was somehow controlled with some kind of medication. Then they want to flip that into the prison. That was the talk back in the 90s, family. I just want to point that out to you so you can see the documentation, what I mean when I say they've had a death wish for us. So you can see it right there in this article. I'm not going to read the article. I'm really getting into a long period of time, but let me get that for you. That's the nature of our people. I just want to get that to you. The nature of our people is basically that. Let me put it back in this mode. Take out that. I want to go back to here and share this part. The black elected officials and diagnosis of their problem. How were they on the governor's anti-gang initiative? Well, I applaud them because the majority of them voted against the governor's gang initiative. As you can see, the House Bill 994, no votes, 0 vote yay, 41 was nay, and quite a few were absent. The Senate bill, which is supposed to have been the companion to it, to check out their record on the governor's gang initiative. Again, strangely, 4 voted for it. I'm talking about of the Georgia Black Caucus, Georgia Legislative Black Caucus. 4 voted for it. What were they trying to prove? 7 nays and 3 absent. Okay, so I applaud them. But what were their problem? Where were their voices? Where was those committees, those ad hoc community meetings to get the community riled up to defeat it? What was the political campaign ads that we see now, like the one that's going out to stop this crazy voter suppression laws, that now all of a sudden the absentee voter laws are changing? These people gear up their program and get right at it. They're in unison. But for us, got to go back to what, family? Got to put it back on you. Take that out. Take my time here. I'm pushing it. But I hope you're enjoying it, finding this information very factual for you. But for us, family, it's this. That's their problem. That's their problem, family. Our leaders are backwards. Look at that nonsense. They go backwards and forward. They're singing. I think the symbolism of a hummingbird is perfect because we like to sing and dance. We seem to be confused. We go back and forth trying to see what the master wants. See, is everything all right on the plantation? And that's what's happening. And with black elected officials. I hope you enjoyed that, family. I really hope you enjoyed that because that's the point. Take that out. Let me move on into that death wish discussion like I always point out. It's a death wish. Like I pointed and gave you the fact, hey, they've been trying to, they wish, white people wish we were dead. I wish we were not alive. We were not supposed to make it past the Civil War. We were supposed to have lost our mind, left the country. And since that wasn't happening, they began to outlaw our progress through whole host of the Reconstruction period where they sold us out, and then came in, destroyed our property and businesses, enacted Jim Crow laws and segregation laws. The black codes were put in place to suppress us and to make it law and tradition. So it's the responsibility of the federal government, the United States government, that we are now at the bottom caste because they outlawed our progress in law, which made it the custom and tradition of people in the nation. That puts the responsibility on them, on the federal government, thus making them owe us a reparation. They need to pay a recompense. They need to pay a restitution for the damage done to the group. But no, they have the backwards leaders who go into keeping us in this benign and neglect mode to do nothing for us, to do nothing to protect us. That's what we suffer from. And that's my point in all of this as I wrap this up about the attack on the black male. Something has to be done. If this law is to continue as it is going, with the 50 some odd counties here in the state of Georgia, that means some 50 odd young black men and women will face 5 to 10 years for associating, which is not the law, with a known gang member, which is not the law. That's mass incarceration. That's a plan for death and destruction. That's a mass incarceration, family. That is a plan for death and destruction. Let me make sure I'm on my death wish right here. Yeah. Can bring that out for me. That's mass incarceration. I gotta let that sink in. Okay. And so what are their plans for us? As always, let's put him up there again one more time. What did he say? Under the death wish. Bring him out. Bring him out for me. The Criminal Crusade is 8, right? It's always going to be this. Anytime they get on a criminal crusade for us, their criminal crusade is always to just lock us up. Okay. Okay. Their criminal crusade is to lock us up. Lock the son of a bitches up. I have to put that up. Have to share that with you. If it's not that, you don't think this was a plan? Look at it one more time. I know he reaching for it one more time. One more, and again he has to say it. Take out that. Bring this in. We'll go right here.
And left wingers in my party who say no, that's not what we should do. But politically, that consensus has been arrived at. I acknowledge there was not that consensus in the 60s. There is today.
They met. They had an agreement. That means several people met and had an agreement. Is that a conspiracy? It sounds like purpose. They purposely designed our demise, family. They have purposely designed our demise. I have to put that in that, family. Politically, that consensus, and it's going on in cahoots with the conduits for their plan is always carried out through black and elected officials. Not all, don't get me wrong, I'm never suggesting it is all, but enough of them are going along with a benign neglect that leave us where we are, that lead us into destruction, that lead us into death, that lead us into our demise. That's it. Let me bring him out of there. Get myself back in here, family, and bring this to a close. One more time, I have to share with you where I really want us to be, like these here. We need to be like that. And my hope and my prayers that we are eventually get to that point where we're in unison and not scattered. And it's going to take removing some of those black elected officials who have sold us out. That's quite frankly. No, it's going to take that. Now, let me take them out. Close this up. Enough seen with that, family. So, that's the point of what I want to share with you as I wrap up element 9. Element 10. I'm closing this out now. I can move on to other topics that I want to share with you. I hope you enjoyed this. I know it's rather long, not too much longer than I normally do, but it had a lot. I had to put a lot that I want to share with you. But again, here it's on you to be aware. That's your work. Then others would become aware based on the work that you do, that where you show that you are aware. That's what I want to say to us, family, right there. And so with that being said, again, this is what the topic: attack on the black man, Georgia mass incarceration agenda. Again, share this video, like this video. Let's do something about this. Let's bring this to an end. And I know that sounds euphemistic, or shall we say utopia, to think that we can fight it all and bring it to an end, but we cannot be cowards in the face of white supremacists. No. We cannot be running with our tail between our legs, scared to do anything. I'm never going to accept that, family. And that's why I'm lifting my voice by starting this platform and discussing this initiative. It's close to home. It's close to heart. It happened to a family member of mine. He's not a gang member. We know he's not. But because he was in the car, they charged him with associating. Yeah, they touched somebody's lives. I didn't even know what was happening until that happened. But yet, it doesn't take for something to happen to me for me to get involved with it. As you will see, there are other elements and other things I've gotten involved with, and I'll share that with you in the future. But that, enough being said there, I don't went too far with this. Again, share the video, like this video essay. I'm closing now. Thanks again for joining me, and I look forward to you joining me some more on some other topics, hit that notification so you'll know when I'm about to post something again. So I have quite a few. I want to deal with the kangaroo court that we see going on in Minnesota, and I'm most likely to do that topic next. And that the glorification of European culture with the death of that so-called fake prince out of England. I want to deal with that next. And until then, be safe. Let's be wise out there. Class dismissed.